Horses have always fascinated people. Their grace, power, and intelligence are easy to admire. But there's something else about them that often surprises us: their capacity for friendship. Not just with other horses, but with animals you'd never expect. Dogs, cats, goats, even birds, and sometimes with the people who rescue them from heartbreaking circumstances. Today, we're going to take a journey through some of the most unexpected horse friendships ever witnessed. Stories of loyalty, healing, and unspoken bonds that remind us how deeply animals feel, and how profoundly they can connect across species. So settle in. For the next hour or so, you'll hear tales that will warm your heart, stir your imagination, and maybe even change the way you see the animals around you. Story number 1, the horse and the stray dog. On a small family farm in Kentucky, a retired racehorse named Blueberry was adjusting to a slower pace of life. Once a sleek competitor on the track, Blueberry had spent years in the spotlight. Now she grazed peacefully in the pasture, enjoying the quiet. One day, a scruffy stray dog appeared at the edge of the property. Thin, limping, and cautious, he looked like he hadn't known kindness for a long time. The family began leaving food out for him, but the dog wouldn't come near anyone. He stayed in the shadows, except when Blueberry was in the field. The horse seemed to sense something in the dog. Instead of shying away or ignoring him, Blueberry would stand close to the fence line where he lingered. She lowered her head slowly, breathing gently through her nostrils until the dog inched closer. Day after day, the same ritual unfolded. Eventually, the dog, now nicknamed Rusty, stepped under the fence and walked into the pasture. And instead of chasing him off, Blueberry nickered softly. She let Rusty curl up in the grass at her feet. From that day on, the two were inseparable. Rusty slept in the barn beside Blueberry's stall. He followed her when she moved from one end of the field to the other. And remarkably, Blueberry seemed calmer with him there, less anxious, more at peace. What began as a tentative connection turned into an unbreakable friendship between a horse who had lost her purpose and a dog who had lost his home. Story number 2, the cat who rode the horse. In a quiet village in France, a draft horse named Marcel worked the fields with his owner. Marcel was steady, patient, and known for his gentle temperament. But he had one unusual companion, a fluffy barn cat named Clementine. Unlike most cats, Clementine had no fear of horses. In fact, she adored Marcel. Every morning, when the farmer harnessed Marcel to the cart, Clementine would leap up onto the horse's broad back and settle comfortably near his withers. What shocked everyone was that Marcel allowed it. He never flinched or shook her off. Instead, he walked carefully, adjusting his stride as though aware of his delicate passenger. Villagers began to smile whenever they saw the pair clip-clopping down the cobblestone street. A massive horse pulling a cart with a little orange cat perched proudly on his back like royalty. Their friendship wasn't just for show. On cold nights, Clementine would curl up in the hay beside Marcel's stall, her purring audible even over the sounds of the barn. The horse, in turn, would lower his massive head to nuzzle her gently, whiskers brushing her fur. Marcel and Clementine became a symbol of the village, proof that friendship doesn't always make sense, but it always makes life richer. Story number 3, the blind horse and the seeing-eye goat. At an animal sanctuary in California, a blind horse named Shadow struggled with his new reality. Losing his sight had left him anxious and disoriented. He paced in circles, bumping into fences, and whinnied in distress whenever he was alone. The sanctuary staff tried everything to comfort him, but it was another resident who finally broke through, a small white goat named Lily. Lily had a bold personality and little fear of the much larger animals around her. One day, she wandered into Shadow's paddock. Instead of panicking at the unfamiliar presence, Shadow quieted. He stretched his neck toward the goat, sniffed, and then, almost miraculously, stood still for the first time in weeks. Over the next few days, Lily began walking alongside Shadow, guiding him gently around obstacles. When he hesitated, she'd bleat, trot ahead, and wait for him to follow. The staff realized Lily had become his seeing-eye goat. With Lily by his side, Shadow regained his confidence. He no longer paced anxiously. He grazed peacefully, followed her around the pasture, and even began to whinny less. Their story spread online, inspiring thousands of people. It was a powerful reminder. Sometimes the smallest friend can make the biggest difference. Story number 4, The Bird and the Horse. In Australia, a black horse named Midnight shared his paddock with an unlikely companion, a magpie. The bird, nicknamed Pip, had fallen from its nest as a chick and been rescued by the farm owners. Though Pip could fly freely now, it chose not to leave the farm, and especially not Midnight. Each morning, Pip would flutter down to perch on Midnight's back. The horse seemed to welcome the wait, flicking his ears as though greeting his winged friend. Pip often pecked gently at Midnight's mane, picking out bits of hay or insects like a grooming ritual. The bond deepened over time. Midnight would whinny when Pip was late to arrive, and Pip was often seen circling overhead when Midnight moved to new fields. Farmers from neighboring properties came just to watch the strange yet heartwarming sight of a bird and a horse that refused to be apart. Story number 5. The healing friendship between a soldier and a war horse. Not all horse friendships are with animals. Some of the most powerful ones are with people. During World War I, countless horses were sent to the front lines, carrying supplies and soldiers into battle. One soldier, a young man named Thomas, was paired with a horse called Grace. She was strong and dependable, but more than that, she gave him something to hold on to when everything else was chaos. In letters home, Thomas wrote not about the war, but about Grace. How she steadied him when he was afraid. How she seemed to listen when he spoke in the quiet moments between battles. And how, after the war, he refused to leave her behind. He fought to bring her home, and against the odds, succeeded. Grace lived out her days on Thomas's family farm, not as property, but as a beloved companion. Their bond showed that sometimes friendship is born not of comfort, but of surviving hardship together. Story number 6. The Horse and the Donkey in Spain. A horse named Esperanza was rescued from neglect. Weak and malnourished, she struggled to adjust even after being given food and care. That's when the sanctuary introduced her to a donkey named Diego. Diego was mischievous, stubborn, and full of life. At first, Esperanza seemed annoyed by his antics. But slowly, Diego drew her out of her shell. He nipped at her playfully, brayed until she responded, and even shared his food pile with her. The transformation was stunning. Esperanza gained weight, her coat began to shine, and most importantly, her spirit returned. Visitors noticed she always stayed close to Diego, as if he'd given her the will to live again. Story number 7. The Child and the Rescue Horse. Sometimes, the most unexpected friendships are between a child and a horse. In one touching case, a young boy with autism struggled to connect with people around him. He often felt overwhelmed by noise and touch. But when his family brought him to a therapy ranch, everything changed. There, he met a gentle gelding named Harbor. Instead of shying away, Harbor stood perfectly still as the boy approached. Slowly, the child reached out, placing his small hand on the horse's warm neck. For the first time in months, he smiled. Week after week, the boy returned. He brushed Harbor, whispered secrets into his mane, and eventually rode him with growing confidence. His parents said Harbor opened a door that nothing else could, giving their son a way to feel safe, understood, and connected. What do these stories tell us? That friendship doesn't depend on species, size, or circumstance. Horses, majestic as they are, carry a surprising gift for empathy. They notice fear, loneliness, and even hope, and they respond in ways that leave us humbled. From goats to cats, from birds to people, horses have shown again and again that they can form bonds where none seem possible. And those bonds don't just enrich their lives, they enrich ours too. Maybe that's why horse friendship stories move us so deeply, because they remind us that compassion knows no boundaries and love always finds a way. Thank you for joining me on this journey through unexpected horse friendships. If these stories touched your heart, share them with someone who needs a little light today. Because sometimes, all it takes is one story, one friendship, to remind us of the goodness in the world. Tell us your story in the comment and subscribe to get to know more fascinating facts and stories about horses.